So how does a gaming YouTuber make a critique of a massive video game and do it without hating the process and hating the game in return? I mean, this last summer I did a 5-hour critique of The Last of Us Part 2 where I went through the whole game, start to finish, beginning to end, every single little thing that happens. I tried to cover it in detail while offering my own thoughts and perspectives and, of course, critiques of the content therein. You know, I think some people assume that somebody like myself just throws together an outline and then just rambles at the camera for a while. And while that's true for some types of videos, that definitely is not the case when it comes to critiques. There's a lot that goes into the back end, and I thought it would be cool if I put together this video breaking down how this works. I mean, I was inspired to make gaming critiques from some of the old-timey game reviewers that were here on YouTube. They just put together videos. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they kept motivated or what their process was like. So I just had to guess. I had to teach myself. But I thought maybe if I put this together, somebody such as yourself might see it and get inspired to make your own videos, make your own critiques, and contribute to the conversation in the community, which is what I want. Like, I don't care if you come and try to step on my toes. Like, I welcome it. I want more people making these videos because I think that helps the conversation. I think that's good for the community in general. So go for it. Steal my strategies and habits and styles. Like, I don't care. Do what you're gonna do. But as always, try to do it in your own style. Put your own spin on it. Do your own thing to a certain extent. But the goal of this video is to give you the tools so you can see how somebody like myself goes about making a massive critique. Now, the reason I'm filming this right now is actually because I'm working on a critique that's going to be smaller, and I thought that making this video during the process of creating that critique could be helpful and interesting. The video is going to be on PT, or the playable teaser that Hideo Kojima put out as a teaser for his Silent Hills game. It's not really important because this isn't the critique. If you want to watch it, I'll have it linked and you can check it out. But all told, this is the process. This is how we do it. So step one, of course, is actually going and playing the game. If I'm going to critique it, offer my thoughts, I have to have gone through it at the very least once. Usually I try to go through a game twice or 3 times if I can. And if I have time, to be honest, nowadays, that's really difficult to do with working another full-time and then real estate brokerage job that I do during the daytime and coming back trying to play games at night to catch up. Just don't have time to go through it multiple times usually. So what I'll do is I'll do like a 1.5 playthrough, as I call it, where I play the story beginning to end, going through side quests if there's side quests, trying to go and explore, push the game every which way I can, and then I go back through specific save files I've made throughout the game to test it, maybe experiment with different choices, that type of thing. And of course, part of this process is recording that footage. Now, I didn't used to do this, but I've built up an infrastructure now where I have enough storage built into my PC that's just out of camera where I can record actually every single second of my playthrough of a game like The Last of Us Part 2 from beginning to end, so I can always reference it. I also usually have my iPad, or at the very least my cell phone, out with a Google Doc pulled up so that I can put notes as I go through this particular chapter of the game. If something interesting happens, maybe there's a bug, a glitch, maybe there's a really interesting and compelling narrative moment, I note that down, write down the timestamp, so it's easier for me to find it at the end of the process when I'm editing everything together. Or if it's a massive video like The Last of Us Part 2 critique and I'm working with another editor to help me sift through all of the crazy amounts of footage, I can actually refer them to that list I created and say, hey, can you go to chapter 2, this bullet point about this glitch that I found? He can go through those lists, find the timestamp that I put, jump right to it so he doesn't have to sift through hours of footage. Again, it's kind of tedious in the moment to have to go through, put those notes down, but I think it actually helps in the long run because it saves a ton of time. Now, the actual minutia of recording the gameplay kind of changes based on the type of game, what I'm doing, and how I'm approaching the process. Up until recently, I had to wire everything through a capture card that's built into my PC. I use an AverMedia 4K 60 FPS capture card. Works fantastically well. I experimented with the Elgato stuff. Of course, that's kind of the flashy name brand, but I actually found that the AverMedia was more reliable and worked fluently with OBS and all of the other systems that I use. So that's what I went with, and I would recommend it. It really works really fantastically. No complaints. And like I said, I use it usually with OBS paired, which is actually what I'm using right now to record this footage off of my Sony a7S Mark II. And I basically just have the console go into that, and then that feeds back out into the monitor through the out port. I can play the game and have it recording at a high bit rate on my computer, so I just don't even have to think about it. And I can play for an hour or 2 hours in one clip while taking notes, and then I just log that away in a folder with all the rest of the gameplay ready to be worked and sifted through when the editing process begins. Now, like I said, that's how I used to do it primarily. Recently, I've actually taken a step to upgrade my whole system and make this just so much easier and so much better. It mainly started when I realized that next generation consoles, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, were going to be putting out regularly 4K content pushing 60 frames per second. In order to do that, I just had to upgrade my rig, mainly because HDMI signals that are longer than 25 feet lose HDR compatibility most of the time, and they also lose a bunch of fidelity. You can end up with it flickering in and out. A nightmare if you're trying to record the footage. So the reason that's important is because I usually am playing these games on next generation consoles in my living room on my nice TV. So what I used to do, and I'm not joking, I used to have a 50-foot HDMI cable that went from that TV. I had an HDMI splitter, came out of the console, went into the splitter, ran to the TV, and then the other one went all the way back into my office, plugged into the capture card on this PC. So every time I wanted to play one of these games that I was going to do a critique on, whether it was Death Stranding, this is how I recorded it, Death Stranding or Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Origins, any of those games, that's how I recorded it, because I wanted to play on the couch, relaxed, but I needed to record the footage. Next generation consoles, that just simply won't work. I can't run a 50 to 100 foot HDMI cable with splitters and all sorts of stuff everywhere. It just won't work. The quality will drop and it's going to be terrible. So I look to the guys that, of course, you look at for tech advice when it comes to gameplay, Digital Foundry. And I actually took a page out of their book and got what's called the Ninja 5. They use the Inferno or the Shogun. I forget which one they use specifically, but this is the Ninja 5. I'm not saying you need this to do critiques of next-gen games. I'm not saying that at all, because this is stupid expensive. Something like this runs retail full price around $600. The reason I got this is because it actually allows me basically a small portable capture card that has a built-in display so I can see what this is seeing, what's coming out of the signal. It has an in and an out just like a regular capture card. It has a fan for cooling because it's going to do everything by itself, and it actually operates either by plugging it in or by using battery packs that are actually pretty cheap, and you can buy on Amazon like 2 for like $20. It's pretty ridiculous. And then in terms of storage, it actually uses standard SSDs. So something like this, you have to make sure it's rated for the speed that you're going to be handling if you're going to be recording at 4K, higher frame rates. And then you put this in a casing, it slides right in here and locks in. You record straight to the SSD, unplug it, plug it into a USB to SATA adapter, and then you're good to go. You download all of the footage straight from this, you're good to go. The files come off of this thing pretty gigantic though. This is what they use on like film sets for recording off of really nice, like stupid nice cameras. So usually what I have to do is I have to pull the footage from this off the SSD onto my computer, and then I re-render it through Adobe Media Encoder at a more reasonable bit rate, basically transcoding it, and that's usually kind of what the process looks like to get footage. But that's just what is going on while I'm playing the game. Like, put aside thinking through what I think of the game and how I think it's working and the branching narratives and choices and gameplay and all of that. That's the easy part. Like, that's pretty straightforward. I can do, like, I'll form an opinion of a game just playing it off the cuff. It's way harder to try and remain impartial and unbiased about a game while you're also having to juggle all of these other technical elements at the same time. And maybe this puts it in perspective when YouTubers that are involved in the gaming space say that being a gaming YouTuber has made them like not enjoy games as much or has made them less of a gamer. It seems so counterintuitive, like, oh, you're talking about games and it's like your job or your part-time job, or it's a hobby that pays you. Like either way, you're doing this a lot. Surely it just ignites the fire even stronger in you. But I don't think that's really the case. And a lot of it is because people get burnt out with all of this extra BS trying to hook up all these different cables and crap to get the footage recorded properly. I mean, like I said, I literally used to have a 50-foot HDMI cable that I hooked up all the way along my living room ceiling, up and around down the wall, and then it came out underneath the door, so it never closed right, and then it ran into my office. I had it taped down with duct tape, which I didn't realize was gonna like totally damage the carpet, but it did. I'm sorry to my previous landlord, I wasn't thinking. But anyway, the cable went around, plugged into the PC. Every time I wanted to go use the bathroom or I wanted to pause the game to eat dinner or something, I had to get up, go back into the office, stop the recording, log it away, save it, move it to the right file, and then I would go and do that. And then when I wanted to start again, I had to come back in the office, boot everything back up again, get it going, and then walk back in there, make sure that there wasn't any flickering. Like, pretty tedious. I mean, if that kind of puts in perspective how much work just goes into recording the footage that you see at the end of the day in these videos, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Like, a lot of stuff goes in on the back end. Kind of crazy. And I don't say this to try and spook you or scare you. Like, you can have a much better system than I do. If you are okay sitting in front of your desk and your monitor playing the game here, recording off of your PC right there, absolutely, you should do that. That's how I recorded a lot of games early on in this channel's history. I just got to the point where I wanted to be able to sit on a couch, you know, with my girlfriend at the time, and then my fiance, and now my wife sitting next to me and playing the game and having fun. I want to be able to relax and have fun with the games. And say what you will, sitting in an office chair or sitting in an office in general, it's just not the same type of gaming experience that you're probably getting when you play these games sitting on your couch. And whenever I critique a game, I want to make sure that I'm looking at it from a perspective that's fair and somewhat relatable to the viewer. And that's by echoing and mirroring ways that you're going to be playing it. That's why I usually, on the first run through, go on normal difficulty, because that's what the overwhelming majority of people are going to do. Even if I might like harder difficulties or this or that, I choose to go normal because that's what most people will do. And I want to see the game from your perspective. Same reason I try to sit on the couch, same reason I try to make sure that I am playing in co-op if it's a co-op game, all of that stuff. So I do all of that to record the footage of the game. I go through the entire game start to finish, and then I go back through a bunch of other side content to push the game. And I've reached the point where I feel as though I have a strong opinion and I could justify my opinion of the game. Usually what I will do then, and I know this sounds totally insane, is I will go on like a long drive and I will basically just ramble and rant like a crazy person to myself in my car, basically walking myself through verbally the entire critique. It's like I'm talking to an imaginary interviewer, or I'm imagining myself at some sort of panel where people are asking me questions about the game and my opinions of it, and I'm just throwing out information and thoughts. Because I don't know about you, I'm somebody that has to talk through their thoughts to reach a conclusion, as you can probably tell just by this video. I can't just like think about it, ponder, and then type it out, and then be good to go. I have to talk it out. And very rarely will I ever find somebody that's okay with me just rambling for 3 hours about a game while I sift through my thoughts and I'm like contradicting things I said earlier. I'm sorry, I whacked the microphone. The point is, I try to sift through my thoughts and organize them. However you do that is how you do that. Maybe you do it by smoking a joint and riding a horse backwards. I don't know. You do you. But for me, my process is to just ramble, sift through my thoughts. Then what I do is I go home and I get the outline set up using the notes that I wrote while I played through the game, which usually already offers a pretty good skeleton. And I'll create an outline with a broad structure of what I want to talk about. Basically the big points. Then I will spend the next week or two going through filling everything out, sometimes word for word in bullet pointed paragraphs that break down exactly what I want to say and how. Other times it might just be bullet points. It might be something where I say, discuss this glitch. Like, I don't need to type out word for word everything that happens with regards to that glitch. I can talk off the dome and communicate my point relatively well and effectively. And that's just something that I do because I feel as though I can usually fill in the gaps well enough that I can cover my tracks and it doesn't seem like I'm just spitballing. But this is part of the reason why sometimes you'll be watching one of my critiques and maybe I say something in a similar way twice in a row. It's mainly because that was probably a bullet point that I was trying to speak off the dome and I phrased it strangely. So I then did another take, tried to rephrase it in a smarter way or a more intelligible way, but just ended up basically repeating myself. And so you end up in this situation where you're like, did he just say the same thing twice? It's like, yeah, kind of. It's my bad. It's just one of the artifacts of this type of content, the style of scripting. But I think more broadly, it's probably better. It's a little more genuine because there are mistakes and there's little things and quirks in how I phrase things when I'm going off the dome that I think people can relate to. And furthermore, it saves a ton of time because I don't have to write out tens of thousands of words by hand, which, to be perfectly honest, with working a full-time job on top of YouTube and all of this stuff, it just wouldn't happen. I would get one video out every 6 months. It wouldn't work. So I choose not to go that route. From there, I'll reach a point where I feel as though the script covers everything I want to address and the outline is good enough that I can be confident in sitting down to record. Now, sometimes I'll do a critique where I have a face cam like this. Sometimes I'll do it where it's purely a voiceover. Really, there isn't any rhyme or reason when I choose to go one way or the other. Sometimes with a game such as Sekiro or Red Dead Redemption 2, where it feels as though a lot of the gameplay footage would just end up being really samey, I choose to do a face cam because I think it'll shake it up a little bit. So when I show gameplay, it's much more intentional. But really, it just doesn't matter that much. It's really just dealer's choice. I saw a lot of people that were doing critiques were doing like face cam and just voiceover, and I decided to shake it up, do a face cam one day and try to throw in some more bits and goofy stuff, and people really liked it. So what I would recommend is that you just experiment with what you want to do. Obviously, long videos can work with your face in front of the camera. Just make sure to think it through and have a reason for why you're doing stuff. But once we've recorded everything, usually through Adobe Audition / OBS / right off the camera, however you record things, dealer's choice, we're left in a spot where we have a ton of footage. Probably for a critique such as the PT one, we're dealing with an hour, 2 hours of footage that realistically we've got to sift through and edit before we get to the core of the video. And then we're also dealing with all of the gameplay footage. With a game or instance such as PT, you're only dealing with maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours of footage to go through. But with something as massive as The Last of Us Part 2, you're dealing with anywhere from 30 to 60 hours of gameplay footage to sift through to edit a video. This is when those notes that you took while you played the game are really freaking useful. Like, so much, because you don't even realize how many times you'll play through a game and you're like, there was that one time where I came across that character that looked just like, it was the same model as the NPC that was standing right next to them. And I want to show that as an example of QA falling through and failing. But you don't realize how many times in the game there are similar scenes that match your memory. You're going to spend 30 minutes going through all 60 hours of footage to find that one clip that you're going to show for 7 seconds, maybe, in the finished product. That's no way to effectively or efficiently edit. It's going to take you ages to put the video together. That's why I think it's important to work smarter, not harder. Think ahead. I know it's tedious, but it's going to save you so much time. You're going to be able to put out more critiques than you ever thought possible if you can do it smartly. Like, just take the time. I promise it's worth it. And then it's just a matter of slowly editing the thing together, getting it to a point where it feels cohesive. It feels as though it communicates a steady story, that it makes sense, it works together, and you're done. You're ready to upload. I mean, I could talk about like thumbnails and titles and descriptions and metadata and stuff, but I'm not particularly good at any of that, so I don't think you should listen to me. And that's also not really what this video is about. But in general, critiques aren't that hard to make. They take a lot of hard work, a high volume of work, but they're not that difficult. You could do this. It's going to take a good amount of time, and your first one is probably going to take you 15 times longer than it takes me to do one of these, just because I've done it before so many times, but that's no reason not to do it. There's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be a situation when your rig is upgraded to the point where you think it's perfect, or when you have the best camera that you'd be happy with, or the capture card is optimal. There's never going to be an instance. If you're watching this video and you say, okay, well, I want to make a critique, but I don't have a Ninja 5 that I can use to record footage in my living room, like, get over yourself. I don't care. Like, it's fine. This is a luxury because I've been doing this for a long time, that I could afford this and it made sense for my workflow. Doesn't make sense for yours starting out. Get a cheap little $100 capture card, throw it onto your laptop or whatever else you got to do, and just start creating. There's always a million excuses not to do something. Just bite the bullet and do it. You'll be happy that you did. I mean, you just got to start making stuff. Okay? Okay. But before we wrap up, I just want to say a quick thank you to the sponsor of this video. I have said many times throughout the course of this whole thing that you should always try to work smarter, not harder. And for me, I actually struggled a lot with migraines and headaches while I sat in front of my computer and TV screen for hours and hours and hours trying to get through a game and edit a video together in time for my own arbitrary deadlines. Like, it was really difficult to get through it, and I never really thought about it, why I was getting headaches and everything, until one day I decided to try blue light filtering glasses. Got rid of my headaches. Totally increased my workflow. I was able to get so much more done sitting at the computer for 2 hours. Didn't feel like I was, staring into the sun. It actually was comfortable and I could get my work done. Now I can go for 6 to 8 hours comfortably in a day without having to worry about any sort of migraines or headaches. And it's because of blue light filtering glasses, such as those created by our sponsor. So these are made by GMG Performance. They're blue light filtering glasses, and I was worried about the reflection. Oh, you can see me in the reflection of the glasses. How cool is that? That's cool. And you can see the big light. That's crazy. I actually use these all the time when I'm editing videos and playing games and things. You, of course, don't see them in the actual videos when I'm filming because of the reflection with the angle I have my light right here. But I actually use these every single day whenever I'm making a video, and it's specifically because I used to get headaches and migraines from the blue light coming off of these screens until I started using these. Completely got rid of it. Will it do it for you? I'm not sure. I'm not going to make promises I can't keep, but what I do know is that these solve the problem for me. Blue light filtering glasses are a godsend as far as I'm concerned, and GMG makes fantastically high quality glasses. Furthermore, they've also got a bunch of cool styles, like the tortoise one that you can shake up and try if you want to look like somebody that wears tortoise glasses. I don't know who wears these kinds of glasses, but they're cool. Like, really, they're fantastic. I love them. You guys know I don't promote products unless I actively use them. I like them. I just don't do it. I don't see the point of me promoting a product if I don't use it and believe in it, because then I'm just lying to you. It doesn't make any sense. In this case, I actually use it. And they were so nice that they actually sent out glasses for everybody on the Luke Stevens team. So my editors now use them. My writer uses them for the stuff that she puts together, because she'll be staring at screens trying to study like news articles and things to coagulate them, put them together in a way that makes sense for the podcast. They're fantastic. They're godsend. Highly recommend them. Links below. But that's kind of the rundown of how this type of thing works. I mean, with a critique such as the PT one, it's a small instance of a game, so it's not a fantastic example of how a large-scale critique tends to work in terms of organizing and editing and everything. But it's still fundamentally the same process. It's just a matter of scale. My biggest piece of advice, though, is to just create. So many people reach out to me, say, Luke, I want to start making videos like yours. I want to start making critiques and reviews and analyses and breakdowns and blah, 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 blah. It's just a bunch of people saying, I want to do this. I want to do that. Get over yourself and just do it. It's not that hard. I believe in you. Do you? If not, why should anybody? Like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just do it. Just make the video. I don't care if the quality's low. I don't care if you got to render it in 720p in 2020. It's terrible. I don't care. Start creating. That's what you got to do. Once you start creating, you'll get a taste of the magic that is creation, and you're going to want more of it. I promise you. So just take that leap. And when you do, send it to me on Twitter. Send it to me. Like, I'll check it out. I promise you. I'll check it out. I can't promise, like, I'll share it or like promote it on the channel or anything. But at the very least, I'll check it out. You never know what might happen. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Hopefully this was interesting, or at the very least entertaining to some extent. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video.